that we sang is a traveling song. I've been told we don't have words in the language for goodbye. We say gigawap min minwa. I'll see you again. I'll see you on the trail. But as somebody who's been married for a long time, whenever I am able to be present at a joining of some sort, I remember that day for myself. I remember what it felt like to be wrapped in that quilt. Is to open the circle, not close the circle or end the ceremony, but to open the circle. Because for us, everything occurs in a circle. No beginning, no end, right? Every end is a new beginning. No beginning, no end.
We can be in ceremony anyway, anyhow, anywhere, and that's and that doesn't make it less sacred. And I've learned that as a two-spirit woman. I've learned that as an urban Indigenous woman, and that is one of the two-spirit teachings, and that, oh my gosh, now you're going to really get me on a tangent here. Two-spirit teachings aren't just two-spirit. What I've taught, I can teach you and talk about my cultural and spiritual identity as a lesbian, and as a Anishinaabe, but honestly, I don't even know where I'm going with that. I'm just getting all wound up and getting crazy here. I'm just saying, okay?
Take a breath. Take a breath.
In breath. Okay, this is how I explain it, okay? I'm not even going to try and be proper. Life is not like this. Life is like this. Life is not like this. Take a breath. Give medicine and be in ceremony for yourself first. Look up. The elders taught me to look up and see who and what's around you. As two-spirit people, we can go anywhere and find ceremony. We can go anywhere because such is our fluid nature, and find teachings and find ceremony. Just because I'm going into a lodge that isn't necessarily a two-spirit lodge doesn't mean that I'm not going to learn something, and vice versa. Just because you're not two-spirit doesn't mean that you can't come into the lodge with us.
I love that idea.
That nonsense is what I'm saying.
There's been too much separating, right? So even in this medicine wheel on here, right, you see those colors are very strictly separated, but that we understand that that's not how it's meant to be. Mm-hmm. Separating out doesn't serve anyone. That's what was done to us. We were separate, when we continue to be separated from the world. And I'm not saying everything has always got to be mashed up, but the key, is my elders used to always say that the whole point of our teachings as Indigenous people, they'd say a couple things. Yes, these are our teachings and we are meant to carry them. But if we don't share them, they don't go anywhere. They don't serve any purpose. So we have a responsibility to share them.
That's right.
It's not for me to say what's for somebody else to do or not do. If somebody comes to my lodge, they are there for a reason, and it's not for me to question it. Mm-hmm. We have become rigid by the process of colonization. And what Holly said about, you can't do that. It's like, okay, simple thing. I suck at using matches. I'm a firekeeper and I suck at using matches. I can start a fire easier with the flint and steel than I can with matches. And when I'm using my pipe, I can't manage the pipe and the matches, so I use a lighter. Every time I pull out the lighter, somebody loses their shit. Oh, that's not natural. That's not natural. You can't bring that in a ceremony. Oh, really? Not so. It's plastic and it's metal and it's glass, but where do you think that stuff comes from? It all comes from Mother Earth, except for the metals that drop here out of the sky. Natural. Do we need to walk gently on Mother Earth? Yes. Do we need to do as much as we can to take care of Mother Earth? Yes. Do we need to create boundaries and rigidities and barriers in ceremony that essentially just amount to bullshit gatekeeping designed to continue and maintain the hierarchies established by colonization that keep us from being able to access what we need to be whole, healthy, balanced human beings, regardless of whether we are two-spirit or not, or indigenous or not, or using substances or not, or whatever. What we need to do is understand that not only is that breath that Holly so beautifully described is medicine, we are medicine.
Beautiful.
My elders told me that these teachings exist for us to know who we are and how much we are.
Ooh.
And while who we are is different for each one of us, how much we are is an invaluable gift to one another and to all of creation. Whether we understand that or not, whether somebody else judges us worthy or not, whether somebody judges whether we're doing good or bad or not, we are still a gift. We are still sacred.
We are sacred.
Absolutely.
We are sacred.
And as human beings, you know, I seek out, and I want to make this point, Tammie, because it's really important, because this is why, you know, I've known Sharp as a friend and elder for a very long time. And that's why it was important to me and Mills to seek Sharp out for the joining ceremony, because what's really important for me is that, number one, there's a two-spirit elder who walks the walk, who talks the talk and walks the walk. And you're the chosen one.
Oh,
you're my chosen one. No, well, you know, Sharp is clearly, you know, she's married and I love her wife and she's great, wonderful people. And they've been married for such a long time. She carries our, you know, our voice and our teachings and customs and traditions. There was purpose in that. There was real meaning and purpose in choosing her to join us by the pipe and in spirit, because at this stage in my life, and I am trying to be the person who talks the talk and walks the walk. Sure, as human beings, we all the time bleep 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 it out, whatever you want to do. I swore, but nobody is perfect. Everybody makes mistakes. So what? Move on. Life is cliche as it may be. Life is truly too short to be holding grudges, to have arguments over ridiculous and stupid things that truly don't matter in this life.
It's true.
But what we need to do, and I want to speak as a two-spirit mother, we are often, interesting, it's on Mother's Day that I say this. The teachings, customs, and practices that I have learned over the years have been the ones to bring me to the point where I am now, where I can openly love my wife, join with my wife, and not feel shame, not feel guilt, not feel worried that I'm going to offend anybody. Those teachings did not come entirely from two-spirit people. They came from heterosexual little old grandmas up north, little old grandpas. Take what you need from the people. Gender doesn't even matter. Take what you need for the teachings from the people. Sexual orientation doesn't matter at the end of it.
I will add to that. Culture doesn't matter. I've learned so much from exploring other people's culture and I believe this. Every culture has something beautiful that you can absorb into your own life to enrich your life, make it better, right? So I celebrate that, absolutely.
And gratitude, going back to what Sharp said, and to say you haven't done it makes you a goddamn liar. But we get stuck in negativity. We get stuck on the pain of the past. We get stuck in grief. Our people are stuck in grief. Our families in our community. I'm sure we have all experienced where we feel stuck or stunted. But it takes somebody to say, I'm going to break that cycle, not the circle, break the cycle. And that's where I feel the Two-Spirit people are going to be helpful going forward, in our families and in our community across the nation. Two-Spirit people will help break these cycles. Bring us in, you know?
Absolutely. Well, I want to just have one final point here. Before we leave, there is, at the ceremony, we sang a traveling song. And then that final time, we allowed the ancestors to drum on our behalf. And you mentioned, Sharp, that there are no words for goodbye in Indigenous culture. Can you just talk about what that song means and how do we honor and say goodbye to our ancestors before we leave the space? And how do you leave, especially like right now that we've come together, we've had this time together, you know, how do we express our goodbye? Do we just say gratitude? Like how do we end
Uh,
a meeting or
so
ceremony?
just before I tell you that, so this isn't in Indigenous culture. This isn't in an Anishinaabe culture, because that's the culture that I know, because that's the culture that I've been sharing. And every Indigenous group across Turtle Island will do that differently or have different teachings about it. So this is a Anishinaabe culture, and that's one of the challenges that we face as Indigenous people in the context of colonization, and we're complicit in it because we've had to learn from one another in order to have anything, because of how much was I'm not going to say taken away, was interfered with,
Right.
because nothing's gone away. It's all there waiting for us to re-embrace. So this is a traveling song. The song that we sang is a traveling song. I've been told we don't have words in the language for goodbye. We say gigawap min minwa. I'll see you again. I'll see you on the trail. Bamapi gigawap min. All kinds of different ways of saying it. The traveling song that we sang, I learned as I picked up the drum, and that song doesn't have words. It has vocables. So vocables are sounds that have an intention rather than a meaning. So lots of our songs will have way, hey, whatever, in a whole bunch of different configurations, and they don't have a specific word meaning, right? So it's about an intention as opposed to tree or yurt or
I
whatever.
didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. And so the intention in singing that song at the end of the ceremony is to open the circle, not close the circle or end the ceremony, but to open the circle, because for us everything occurs in the circle. No beginning, no end, right? Every end is a new beginning. No beginning, no end. And so we acknowledge that you're moving out of this ceremony into the new beginning of life in outside of that particular ceremony, but you're taking a big piece of that with you. Clearly you have, because you created the beautiful video and you're having this conversation with us and you want to learn more, and I can like feel it in you. And so we sing that song with that intention that all of those ancestors and helpers who came and helped us will see us home to our lodge and into the dream time, and then they can go on about their business before we said, hey, could you come over here for a minute? And so come back. So lots of places you'll go, you'll hear that same song, maybe sung a little bit differently, maybe with a little bit of a different tempo. You may hear a different teaching about it. You may only hear it 4 times and not hear it the 5th time without the drums, because not everybody carries that particular teaching. But singing it that 5th time without the drums was something that people in this territory started to do for some reason. The people who taught me about it, that's what they've always done. Sometimes when you bring it into another territory, they go, what are you doing? and that's okay, because we all do things slightly differently. Uh, but the way it was taught to me was that, you know, we provide, just as throughout the ceremony we have acknowledged how important it is uh, to recognize that our elders and our ancestors are sitting with us, that our spirit helpers are sitting with us. Uh, we want to thank them for that. We want to acknowledge them and let them know that our ceremony is done, uh, and we wish them well as they move about their business. That we will be able to come together again. Gigawap min minwa. Until we meet again. Until I see you again. Right. And for me, it's very, very powerful, because I use that song not just at the end of a ceremony, but I also carry crossing over ceremonies. And we use that at a crossing over ceremony at a funeral, for lack of a better way of calling it. We will sing that song a number of times over the course of the ceremonies that are done in that context. And it just has a power. It's like going to a wedding or joining ceremony. As somebody who's been married for a very long time, over 20 years, 25
How
years.
long was it?
It's 26 years in June. We will be together, and 20 years traditionally married, or sorry, 21 years traditionally married, 16 years legally married. Yeah, so we were supposed to have a big party in 2020, and it didn't happen because of the pandemic. But as somebody who's been married for a long time, whenever I am able to be present at a joining of some sort, I remember that day for myself. I remember what it felt like to be wrapped in that quilt. I remember what it felt like to look this woman in the eye and promise to love her and laugh with her and other things. And to sit here 21 years later, and we still laugh together, and we still love one another. And so the opportunity to be in a joining ceremony, and even more to be able to help with Holly and Mills, I was so honored. I can't even describe how honored I am to have been able to witness that. Because that's all I was. I didn't do the joining. Holly and Mills did the joining. We were all merely witnesses. Witnesses, and with responsibility to love them and support them as they move forward in their relationship to the best of our abilities. So yeah, there you have it.
See, again, move to silence. Everyone, we have come to the end of our Tea Time with Tammie conversation with Sharp and Holly. And this is what I call a gem. I would never have had this opportunity had Holly not graciously invited me to her beautiful ceremony. I was able to connect with Sharp, and this conversation is only my offering to say how beautiful those teachings were, and how impressed and awed and humbled I was to bear witness. And I want to share that. And I'm so grateful to have had the opportunity to share my experience, and share and give a platform to have Holly and Sharp share their teachings with us today. So I'd like to, I'll start with Holly. Is there any final words that you'd like to offer?
Well, certainly miigwech for letting us share our teachings. Because again, as Sharp said, we have a traditional role and responsibility to as much to learn, but to share as well. And that's how our way of life continues. But if there's one thing I want, again, to impress upon people's, you can be in ceremony anywhere. You can be in ceremony with yourself. You can be in ceremony with everybody. Take what you need from whoever comes into your life. I guess one of the most valuable lessons that I have learned in my 44 years
Juvenile.
It's getting up there, sneaking up there, is that hardship can be a gift.
Mhm.
Challenge is a gift. And that we need to start flipping the script, changing the narrative in our head. For a long time, I became very angry and very bitter and very withdrawn, so many things in dealing with the hardship that came with being a two-spirit woman. There was so much weight to carry, and I've consciously made a decision that I don't want to be that way. I want to live free, and free means getting rid of all of that backpack of challenge and hardship, and think of it now as a gift and an opportunity. Gratitude first. Thank you. Thank you. Because when that cliche, when one door closes, another opens, but there's truth to that. And I've chosen to try to talk the talk and walk the walk. I just refuse to be a victim of systems and the impacts of those systems. And so in order to do that, you have to focus on being a happy, healthy individual first, and show gratitude and stand and speak in gratitude. And I really think for as much challenge as I've had as a two-spirit woman, it's been a gift. It's been absolutely a sacred gift. So, miigwech to everyone. Thank you.
Sharp, do you have any final words to share?
Well, he's right. Every interaction we have with another human being is an opportunity to learn. Sometimes we learn easy things, sometimes we learn difficult things. I noticed the day of the ceremony how quiet you were. I noticed the impact it had on you. That was powerful to witness. All the hijinks the rest of us were in, you were quiet and taking it all in. That is a gift. This is a gift. The opportunity to get our teachings where they need to be, to do what needs to be done, to challenge colonization, ongoing colonization, to challenge one another, to be able to grow, to know who we are and how much we are. And every time we open ourselves up to those opportunities, we see a little more clearly. Because it's really difficult for us as human beings to look within. We can see what's within by looking in the eyes of the people who care for us. That will teach us who we are and how much we are. So miigwech, 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 miigwech. Kikawap min minwa.
Now, Bama people up meanwhile. Miigwech.
I offer you my gratitude, both of you. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye now. Love you. Bye.
Bye-bye. See you later.
Okay.
My battery's gonna run out.
Everyone, thank you so much for joining me. Miigwech.
Later.
Bye.